Good evening. Welcome back to our critical reasoning class 2. So let's continue our practice. So let's look at strength and weaken questions. Okay. So previously we checked different types of questions. So today we will deal with strength and weaken questions. So for weaken questions, what do we do? For any question, we read the argument and find out the conclusion and the evidence on which that conclusion is based. So this is the very first thing you must do. Conclusion and evidence you must identify. Then for weaken question, after you identify the conclusion, for weakening that conclusion, you must prove the opposite of the conclusion. So you must first state the opposite of the conclusion and then find the answer which proves it. So identify the conclusion, state the opposite of the conclusion, and prove the opposite of the conclusion from the options. Whichever option proves it, that is your answer. So you must clearly state the opposite of the conclusion. Then you must prove it. Okay. So that is type 1. For strengthen questions, what do we do? We'll come to it, but type 2 weaken questions, let us see. Type 2 are those which are in the form of cause and effect. So the conclusion will be in the form of cause and effect. For example, A causes B. So A causes B means how to weaken this conclusion? So if the conclusion in the form is in the form of A causes B, how do you weaken it? By proving that an alternate factor also causes B. X causes B. Or A is not necessary to cause B. Even without A also, there is no cause but effect is there. Or cause is there, effect is not there. Or A causes B can be weakened by saying that B causes A. So in these 4 ways, you can weaken the conclusion which is in the form of A causes B. Okay. So bring an alternate factor, original factor gets weakened. Original factor is A causes B. So if you say X causes B, A causes B gets weakened. Or without A, also B can happen, then also it weakens. Then A does not necessarily lead to B, also weakens it. A causes B. Then if you say B is the cause, not the A, then A causes B gets weakened. So by reversing A causes B, you can weaken it by proving B causes A. So you must look for such kinds of answers in the options. Okay. So let us understand them in the context. But these are weakened type 1 and type 2. Type 1 is prove the opposite of the conclusion. Type 2 is cause and effect conclusions are weakened by proving alternate cause, no effect, or cause and effect getting reversed. Okay. Now, what do you do in strengthen questions? Strengthen questions also, we identify the conclusion and then prove the same conclusion again from the options. What extra information is strengthening it? So prove it again. So for strengthen questions, we prove the same conclusion again by some extra information. For weaken, we prove the opposite of the conclusion, or if it is A causes B, then A causes B type conclusion, then we try to identify an alternate cause or no effect or cause and effect getting reversed. Okay. So identify the conclusion, strengthen, weaken. So if it is a plan of action, how to strengthen that plan of action? If the argument is talking about a plan of action, so if you can prove that it is easy to implement, it leads to the goal, then it strengthens it. And if you prove that the plan has no side effects, okay, or it has positive side effects, then also it strengthens. If you prove that the plan of action has negative side effects or drawbacks, then it weakens it. Or if you can prove that public are not supportive of it, or it cannot be implemented, then also it weakens that plan of action. If it is a plan of action type. Normally, X causes Y type conclusions. Okay. Look at this. The author comes to a conclusion based on some study or where they are offering some kind of statistics. To strengthen it, find an option that provides additional data that complements the existing idea. For we can find an option that offers additional data that contradicts the existing data or shows that the existing data is incomplete. Okay. Similarly, for strengthen X causes Y, find an option that presents an absolutely new point to support the claim made in the conclusion, or you must find an option that rules out other possible reasons for Y. Suppose you say X causes Y. Now, if I say A causes Y, then it weakens the original statements. This is weakening, is it not? Because you are giving an alternate factor for the same result. Now, if I say A does not cause Y, then it strengthens. Because you are ruling out the alternate factor. A does not cause Y strengthens X causes Y. Are you getting this? So this is the difference. So when you are ruling out an alternate factor, then it strengthens the original factor. If you bring an alternate factor, then it weakens the original factor. So that way you should look at this particular strengthen question. If it is weaken question, let us see. Find an option that presents an absolutely new point that suggests that Z could also cause Y, which reduces the probability that X causes Y. It may also be so that Y causes X. So either you reverse the cause and effect or you bring an alternate factor, then you can weaken the original statement X causes Y. Okay. Now, let's look at this question. This is a cause and effect question. Please solve this question. 2 minutes on you. Yes, Abhishek correct. Aditya correct. So the argument claims in the very first statement that people who carry mobile phones in their trousers are more likely to suffer from sterility than those who carry it in their jacket pockets. So carrying the mobile phones is the cause. The effect is sterility. So it is a cause and effect conclusion. Now give an alternate reason for sterility, then it gets weakened. So which option gives you alternate reason for sterility other than mobile phones in their trousers? Sarang? Sarth, correct. Aishika, correct. Dhwani, correct. Yes, correct. Samyak, correct. Shantanu, correct. Most of the times these some answers are wrong, okay, because they talk about only a few exceptions. The exceptions do not influence the original argument as such. So the argument is claiming that men who carry their mobile phones in their trousers are more likely to suffer. That means likely means what? Probability is high. It's not saying all of them will get it. Therefore, E is not weakening it because E is inherent in that. Some men may not get it. So don't pick such answers with some. There has been no previous evidence of mobile phones. Maybe now, according to a recent survey, there is evidence, right? So this conclusion is based on the recent survey. So we don't want previous evidence here. C is giving an alternate reason, saying that the cigarettes may be responsible for sterility, which are proven to cause sterility is alternate reason for sterility. So C option is correct. Because C is giving an alternate reason for causing sterility. Okay. Question number 2. This is an easy one. The argument claims that transportation by trucks is better. We must prove the opposite of transportation by trucks is not good when compared to pipelines. So which answer proves it? Oh yes, Saad, correct. Abhishek, correct. Shantanu, correct. Samyak, check your answer. Dhani, check your answer. Aditya, correct. Ishika, correct. B is saying negative about both the things, right? So how to decide which one is better? D is saying land acquisition. I mean, if you acquire the land, then it is okay, right? So don't bring, that's not a big problem. If you acquire the land, then it's okay, right? So compared to pipeline, he says that trucks are better because with pipelines, he is saying there is a greater risk of leakage. So E is proving otherwise, is it not? It says if you construct pipelines from reinforced material, the leakage will be significantly lower than when using trucks. So that means leakage can be prevented if you can use reinforced material to construct pipelines. So this says pipelines are better than transporting trucks in reducing the risk of leakage. So everything is perfect here. They are addressing the problem. And pipelines are better than. The argument is saying trucks are better than pipelines. This answer is proving that pipelines are better than trucks and therefore weakens. Option E. Question number 3. Aditya, correct. So first read the argument. The earliest Sumerian metal weapons found in Baghdad, Iraq are about 2500 years old. Okay. So metal weapons are 2500 years old. A few days back, archaeologists in Baghdad found pottery, which is nearly 3500 years old. Okay. So this pottery resembles Sumerian pottery of a much later period. So that means after so many years, after 3500 years, Sumerian pottery came into existence, which is also found in Baghdad. Okay, so the pottery designs are also very different from designs of pottery of other civilizations. So whatever they found now of 3500 years old does not resemble any other civilization, which means which are known to have inhabited the area in other eras. So we can conclude that there were definitely Sumerian settlements in Baghdad 3500 years ago. Okay. So 3500 years ago, the pottery, whatever they found resembles the pottery, Sumerian pottery, which came maybe after 1000 years. Maybe let's say 2500 AD or something. Okay. Or BC. So they are saying that this is there must be Sumerian pottery, Sumerian people existing 3500 years ago, because that 3500 years ago pottery is resembling the later Sumerian pottery that came in Baghdad. Now we have to weaken this. See, the conclusion clearly is based on what? Conclusion is based on the evidence. So what is the evidence? Pottery. Pottery of that 3500 years old resembles Sumerian pottery. Okay, so this pottery that they found out, which is dated to be 3500 years old, resembles Sumerian pottery of later periods. Therefore, the conclusion is saying that, therefore, there must be Sumerian settlements in Baghdad before. There must be Sumerian settlements in Baghdad. So we have to weaken the evidence. So we have to say that the pottery resemblances does not lead to this. So what the pottery is used for does not weaken this. So C can be ruled out. Pottery, B says pottery is a mark of highly evolved civilizations, and the Sumerian civilizations would have been only 100 years old 3500 years ago. So he's actually strengthening it by saying that 3500 years ago Sumerian civilization was 100 years old. That means he is accepting the fact that Sumerian civilization existed 3500 years ago. Which means it is strengthening it, but we have to weaken it. Sumerians were not known to trade in pottery. Does that weaken? Maybe they were not trading in pottery, but the designs could still, they were engaged in pottery. That does not deny. Just because they don't trade pottery does not mean that it does not exist. Maybe they were not trading it. Okay, so this is not known to trade does not weaken, but definitely if he says something about trading, then it would have weakened it. But this is a tricky answer. You can keep it. If there is no other thing, we can pick it. Now, cultures that follow are known to adopt pottery styles of older civilizations. What does that mean? Whatever they are saying, Sumerian pottery came later, right? So if D option is correct, that cultures that follow Sumerians are adopting the pottery styles of older civilizations and not vice versa, then this will be wrong. Because they are resembling a past style with the latest style. Then who should those, the Sumerian pottery must be actually the older style that they have followed, is it not? So definitely the later style that they are following belongs to some other people rather than Sumerians. So Sumerians adopted some other pottery that existed before, if this is true. So you can't say Sumerians existed. This is putting that conclusion in doubt. It could be other cultures also. So D is weakening it by saying that the cultures that follow are known to adopt pottery styles of older civilizations. So Sumerian settlements need not be there in the Baghdad. If there is somebody else also, that pottery resembles Sumerians later because they picked it from them. So Sumerian settlements need not be there. So that is proven now. So D option is weakening it. E says metal weapons shows the experience of centuries, but it doesn't talk about Sumerians, etc. Okay. And it doesn't prove anything about Sumerians. So pottery is the evidence. So we need to focus on those kinds of answers only. Question number 4. This is strengthen question. You have to strengthen this. So cost of the shoes, whether it is high or low, it has nothing to do with whether it is, the better shoes. So the perception that if you pay more, you will get better shoes is wrong. So that's what you have to prove again. Because he's saying that the advantages are same. So the evidence here is the advantage that you get for $80 shoes and $150 shoes is the same. Therefore, the perception that if you pay more, you will get better shoes is grossly misplaced. That's what the argument conclusion is. So you have to strengthen the claim. C is weakening, Shantanu. It says the effectiveness of running is dependent on technique rather than the type of shoes. It only means that you can purchase any type of shoes. That doesn't say anything about if you pay more, you get better shoes. See, the argument is talking about different types of shoes, right? So you must address that point in your answer. E does not say anything about different types. People have used basic running shoes for ages without suffering any serious injuries. People tend to be less cautious while using expensive shoes than when using lower price shoes. So option A is strengthening because the advantages are same as well as disadvantages are also same. The proportion of people injured due to running is the same across users of shoes at various price ranges. So price range is important point here. So advantages are also same. At the same time, disadvantages are also uniform across all the price ranges. That means price has no effect on the betterment of the shoes is proven again in A option. More you pay, you get better shoes is again disproved here, is it not? So A option strengthens the claim that if you pay more, you get better shoes is wrong. Because the negative effects of all these types of shoes across different price ranges is also the same. Neither the positives are different nor the negatives are different. Positives are same, negatives are also same, which means there is no difference. Whatever you buy at whichever range, it is all the same. So it is proving the point again, is it not? So it strengthens. So A strengthens it. You must focus on what you have to prove, strengthen and weaken. Okay. Question number 5. The mayor of New Hertfordshire has blamed the new manufacturing plant set up in the country a few months ago for the sudden rise in the incidence of waterborne diseases in the country. So mayor is blaming the manufacturing plant for the increase in the waterborne diseases. The mayor in his address to the people has said that the pollution caused by the disposal of the industrial waste by the new manufacturing plant of the river that runs through Hertfordshire was the cause of the rise in waterborne disease. So he's saying that the industrial waste released into the river is causing the waterborne diseases. Therefore, he's blaming the manufacturing plant. So we have to strengthen this. We have to say that yes, manufacturing plant and its industrial waste are responsible for the increase in the waterborne diseases. That's what you have to prove. Now prove it. Prove it again. That means you have to take some extra information to prove the same point. Yes, Sarth, correct. Dhwani, correct. Abhishek, correct. Aditya, correct. Abhishek, correct. Ishika, correct. Sarang, correct. Very good. So we have to prove something against the manufacturing plant in terms of the causing diseases. Now B is a tricky answer. The people of New Hertfordshire have been badly affected by waterborne. So we are searching for the cause. We have to strengthen the cause. The manufacturing plant is responsible. Okay. C is actually weakening it because it is giving an alternate reason. Pollution is because of some other thing, not this plant. So D is strengthening it, saying that the plant's sewage treatment process does not meet the latest safety standards released by the government a month ago. So it is reinforcing the fact that their treatment of industrial waste is also not meeting the standards. Okay. thereby strengthening that conclusion. Question number 6. The male sage grouse has air sacs that, when not inflated, lie hidden beneath the grouse's neck feathers. So there is a sac, air sac for a male bird, which is hidden when it is not blown. That means when it is not ballooned, it is hidden inside the neck feathers. During its spring courtship ritual, courtship means when it is engaging in, mating, that is sexual union. So during its spring courtship ritual, the male sage grouse inflates these air sacs and displays them to the female sage grouse. Some scientists hypothesize that this courtship ritual serves as a means for female sage grouse to select healthy males or healthy mates. So we have to support this, saying that yes, this is a symbol of health. The air sacs in males is a symbol of health. Prove it. Yes, Aditya, Abhishek, Sarang, correct. Yeah, please share the attendance link. Someone, I think it is Samyak, is sharing it. Yeah, Siddhi, correct. Sarth, correct. Shantanu, correct. Very good. So D is giving you the answer, right? So it is supporting that the male sage grouses are prone to parasitic infections that exhibit symptoms visible on the bird's air sacs. So which means if it is showing it, that it is healthy. If it is not showing, then it is not healthy. And definitely by seeing it, the female is selecting the healthy mate, which means it is a symbol of health is proven again. So D option is correct. Again, as I mentioned, C option is talking about only some healthy male sage grouses. That does not weaken it because it's an exception. Question number 7. This is a bold-faced question. So you have to tell the function of this boldface within the argument. What exactly the role of that sentence is. Is it a conclusion? Is it a evidence? Or is it a judgment or a claim or a fact? So you must mention the role of those first boldface and second boldface statements. Okay. So in the answers, you will see the first means the first boldface. The second means the second boldface. So you must tell the function. So what are economists saying? That social activists blame corporations as profit-making institutions, which is wrong. So economists are of the opinion that social activists are wrong to portray corporations as profit-making bodies or solely driven by profit motives. And how are they, what is that their argument is that the activists' argument that no corporation makes an investment from which it does not expect a return is not always true. So the boldface is the activist's argument, is it not? And this argument is actually opposed by the economists, is it not? So what is the contention of the activist, social activist argument? The first boldface, no corporation makes an investment from which it does not expect a return. And this is not true as per the economist. Since means he is giving the reason. There have been many examples of corporations that have started not for profit trusts that run schools and other institutions that contribute to social welfare. The economist's argument against the activists is not convincing because, so this is actually the overall conclusion of the argument is the economist's argument against the activists is not convincing. Why? Because corporations advertise their welfare activities in order to generate goodwill that translate into increased revenues. So this is again supporting that main conclusion. So this is the evidence. So the second boldface is the evidence to support the main conclusion of the argument. And the first boldface is the contention of the activist's argument, which is opposed by the economists. Now give me the answer. This is a little, little tricky because the challenge is to read the answers carefully. So you should not get jumbled up while reading the answers. Try to pick the correct answer. First thing is very clearly, second is not the conclusion. Is that clear? So you can see the word because here. The main conclusion of the entire argument is this. And is giving a reason because. So this is the reason. This is the evidence. This is not the conclusion. Anything that is based on evidence is the conclusion. This is conclusion. So this underlying portion, this is conclusion of the total argument. So with that, you can eliminate D and E, because D and E are saying that second one is the conclusion. Second states the conclusion. Second is not the conclusion. Second states the conclusion. So I can eliminate two answers based on that. Three answers. Second states the conclusion. So clearly we know that second is not the conclusion. Okay. Now between A and C. It is option. It is option C. Okay, Abhishek Nair wants me to explain the whole question again. According to economists, social activists wrongly portray corporations as institutions that are driven solely by the motive of profit or revenue maximization. So if the economists are saying that social activists are wrong in their portrayal of corporations as profit-making bodies, okay, so what does economists believe? That corporations are good. Okay, so social activists are saying that corporations are bad. Now, just to understand vaguely, okay. Now, what is the next statement immediately? They contend that, they means here social activists. Economists contend that the activists' argument that no corporation makes an investment from which it does not expect a return is not always true. So whose argument is this? This highlighted text. This is activists' argument. So this is the contention of the activists, and he's saying that these people, the economists, are saying that activists' argument is not true. Since he's giving a reason, there have been many examples of corporations that have started not-for-profit trusts that run schools and other institutions that contribute to social welfare. So economists are saying that corporations are not bad, they are good, because the activist argument is wrong, saying that the corporations are bad because they do many social welfare activities, therefore they are good. They are not driven by profits only, they do some social service also. That is what the economists are saying, right? But as you come to the next sentence, the economist's argument against the activists is not convincing. This is the conclusion of the overall argument. So economists are saying these things, but their argument is not convincing against the activists. Why? Because this is the evidence. This is the main conclusion. Okay. Is that clear, Abhishek? So clearly the second boldface is not the conclusion. It is supporting the conclusion. Therefore, it is an evidence. So which rules out three options straight away, B, D, and E. If you read carefully A and C, C should be our answer. Because see, what is it saying very clearly? The first supports an assertion that the economists refute. Okay. So what is that the economists are refuting? That no corporation makes an investment from which it does not expect a return. So they are opposing that, is it not? So economists are refuting that statement. And the second boldface is supporting the argument that refutes the economist's argument. Overall argument, what is it doing? It is actually rejecting the economist's argument, saying that it is not convincing. And on what basis? The second boldface is the reason for that one. So second one supports the argument that refutes the economist's argument. So option C. So the technique is here to identify the evidence and the conclusion. Okay, any conclusion is based on some evidence, right? So if you find out that evidence and conclusion, you will find answers like this, where something goes contrary. So you can eliminate 2-3 options immediately once you identify the conclusion and the evidence. Let's do another one. Boldface. So this is a sure shot question, maybe 1 or 2 questions. So even within the passage also you will get such questions. What is the role of the highlighted text within the passage? So if you practice these questions, it will be helpful on RCs also. A large number of HBS students signed the MBA oath at graduation in response to the dramatic business failures of the past year. The HBS student who organized the effort and the HBS faculty members who inspired him deserve great kudos for raising in a powerful, symbolic way critical issues for MBA students about building a foundation of integrity for business performance. Student commitments that are echoed at other business schools and now resonate in major media takeouts. But oaths and codes are empty, even hypocritical rhetoric, if they are not backed by anything else. In this period, when trust in capitalism and business decision making has been severely eroded, the question is whether the MBA oath will effect consequential change along with many other developments. So, the first presents a particular course of action. What is the course of action in that? So there is no course of action. The first lauds a particular course of action. Yes, this is okay. Lauds means praises. First appreciates a particular course of action. This is also okay. The first lauds a particular course of action. The first praises a particular course of action. Okay. Is the course of action refuted here? Refute means reject. So the course of action that the second refutes. No, it is not rejecting the course of action as such, but it is actually saying the second one actually is saying, the second boldface is actually giving a reason why it might not be effective, or why it might not be. So something that is given in D is matching correctly. So C and E also look similar, but there is a slight difference. Let us see. The first appreciates a particular course of action about whose effectiveness. The second expresses doubts. Second one is not expressing doubt. It is giving a reason for doubt. But the doubt is expressed in the last sentence, not the boldface. The doubt is expressed here. So why that doubt is expressed, that you can see in this second boldface. So the second boldface is actually the reason why the doubts are arised. Okay. But that itself is not the doubt. So the second one expresses doubts is wrong, because the doubt is expressed in this part, not in this part. Second provides the reason why it might not be effective. This is the reason. Because the faith in the capitalism has been eroding, it is doubtful. The question is, okay. So second, the first praises a particular course of action whose effectiveness is called into question by the second. Okay. This is also similar to C option. So second gives the evidence for why it might not be effective. So the reason is the main part here. So D option is correct. Question number 9. This is again one more boldface type. These are a little annoying, but try them. That helps you a lot on the exam. A recent study led by Janet Werker, a psychologist, suggests that children who learn two languages at once may have increased cognitive abilities such as enhanced visual and auditory sensitivity. Okay. So if you see the answers, the first is a claim made by the argument in support of bilingualism. Is it a claim? What is the meaning of the word claim? Claim means it's a judgment without any support. But this has the backing of study, right? It can be a study's finding. So the first states the findings B and C are okay. The first is a hypothesis about a particular developmental trait. So is that a hypothesis? Maybe. It says may have increased. The first supports a recommendation by citing relevant examples. Now let us see. Children who learn two languages at once may have increased cognitive abilities such as enhanced visual and auditory sensitivity. The findings run counter to the theory that suggests bilingualism may actually lead to language confusion. Benjamin Lee Orff, the American linguist, once said, "Language shapes the way we think and determines what we think about." Orff's linguistic studies led to the principles of the Orff hypothesis of linguistic relativity, a belief that speakers of different languages learn, think, and act differently depending on the language they speak and write. From Worf's findings, one may conclude that a child who engages in code switching, the use of two or more languages in everyday interactions, will develop language confusion. So the first and second one, they look like opposites, is it not? The first one is saying it increases the abilities. The second one is saying it develops language confusion. But both have different supports to them, is it not? First conclusion is first boldface is supported by Janet Werker's study, whereas second boldface is supported by Worf's findings. But definitely both are supported by something, right? So this means that both are conclusions based on some support. So we need to identify the correct answer. Yes, Dhwani correct, Shantanu correct. Others, read the answers and tell me the correct. Yes, Sarang correct. Abhishek correct. Siddhi correct. Abhishek correct. Second is not the reason, it is the finding, it is the result. So second cannot be the grounds. So this part is grounds part is incorrect. Grounds means reason, basis. So the basis is Worf's findings. And the conclusion is confusion. Second is not a random judgment. Second is based on a study. So how can you call it random judgment? Okay. A is saying as if first and second both are with slight modifications, both are saying the same thing. So which is not correct. Ishika correct. Siddhi correct. So look at the option A. The first is a claim made by the argument in support of bilingualism, and the second presents the position in a modified form. That means he is indirectly saying that second one is also saying the same thing. But actually, if we read the two, they are exactly opposites. So this part is incorrect. The first supports a recommendation. It's not a support. It is not supporting anything. It is being supported by Janet Werker's study. So this is wrong. So option C is correct. The first states the findings and the second invalidates that claim. So option C is correct. Question number 10. Main point questions. The main point is like a summary, okay? So it's like the important point. So the answers, when you're picking the answers, you have to eliminate the ones which are talking about minor things. So minor points are not the answers. Okay. So let's look at this question number 10. Which of the following most accurately restates the main point of the passage? Generations of European history students have been taught that a political assassination caused the First World War. Without some qualification, however, this teaching is bound to mislead, since the war would not have happened without the treaties and alliances that were already in effect and the military force that was already amassed. These were the deeper causes of the war, whereas the assassination was caused only in a trivial sense. It was like an individual spark that happens to ignite a conflagration that was in the prevailing conditions inevitable. So the argument is stating that assassination, political assassination is shown to be the cause, which is a very minor cause actually. The war already is set to happen. It is bound to happen because of the alliances. They are already military amassed on either sides. It's bound to happen. So there is no such kind of teaching that political assassination caused the First World War is not correct. It misleads the people to downplay the role of already existing factors. So that's what this argument is saying. So we need to restate the main point without losing any of this main point. Okay. Now tell me which one accurately restates the main point of the passage. A is slightly exaggerating, equal claim, that is exaggeration, right? So the argument is not stating such exaggerated claims. They don't want assassination and other factors also to be equal causes. In fact, the other ones are the main causes. This is the minor one. The war was destined to happen since the course of history up to that point could not have been altered. That we do not know. C says, though the statement that the assassination caused the war is true, the term cause more fundamentally applies to the conditions that made it possible for that event to start the war. So this seems to be okay. This sounds good. So keep it. Now look at D. If the assassination had occurred when it did, but less military force had at that time been amassed, this is again hypothetical. We don't know. Although the conditions prevailing at the time the war started made the war inevitable, if the war had not been triggered by the assassination, that we do not know. That is not the topics. It would not have taken the course with which students of history are familiar. Now, what would have happened if this assassination has not happened is not the scope of this argument. It's hypothetical and purely conditional. So we have to summarize this argument. We don't have to hypothesize to a far-fetched things about this. Okay, so C option is stating the correct one. Question number 11. Again, main point. The positions advanced by radical environmentalists often contain hypotheses that are false and proposals that are economically unfeasible. But there is a positive role to be played even by these extremists because the social and political inertia regarding environmental issues is so stubborn that even small areas of progress can be made only if the populace fears environmental disasters. However untenable the reasons for those fears may be. So by stoking the fears of the people, even unreasonable, these people inadvertently are doing some good to these environmental issues, because otherwise these people will not be motivated to look at it. So the areas of progress that these people are making are because of such an indirect benefit out of these stoking fears. Okay. Now, which one of the following most accurately expresses the editorialist's main argument? The little progress that has been made in improving the environment is mainly due to the fear created by. No, this is an extreme one. So he's saying they are doing indirect benefit. Radical environmentalists, by promoting their views, stimulate progress on environmental issues. Maybe this seems to be okay. Social and political inertia is most effectively overcome by an extremely fearful populace. This we do not know. He is only saying social and political inertia is so stubborn that the progress would not have happened, without these fears. That does not mean that most effectively overcome. What does that mean? We don't know in how many other ways this inertia can be overcome to say that this is the most effective one, is it not? So C outrightly is a comparative term. Unless we know the other factors which can overcome social and political inertia, we can't say this is the most effective one. All we know from this argument is that this helps overcome social and political inertia. Whether it is most effective or not, we do not know. Radical environmentalists often put forth untenable positions. Again, often put forth. Now, this is untenable. Whether they often put forth untenable positions, or we do not know. Radical environmentalists advocate positions without regard for factual support. I mean, this without regard is again judgmental. Most effectively, often put forth, without regard for. These things have no support in this argument. The argument doesn't support such claims. So we have to take a reasonable answer, which is diplomatic, which is not going to any of such extremes. Okay. So pick B option, which is balanced. By promoting their views, they are stimulating progress. That means indirectly they are contributing to the environmental issues or progress on those issues. Number 12. Law enforcement officials and other experts on crime cautioned that the latest report, which shows that violent crime increased in the US for the first time in 4 years, up 2.5% in 2005 from the year before, does not necessarily mean that crime would start to run rampant again. So the report is claiming that there is an increase. But these law enforcement officials are saying that it does not necessarily mean that crime will go rampant again. So that means rampant means widespread. The increase in violent crime came after years of successful crime reduction efforts all over the country in the 90s. According to experts, after the sharp decreases during the 90s, the crime rate from 2000 to 2004 was almost constant. The 7 good years of crime decline ended when the 90s ended. Now the challenge is not so much to make the crime rate go down more, because that's not necessarily realistic. That means further reductions in the crime are not possible because it's not realistic. But the challenge is to make sure that the small blip does not become a big one. So whatever increase that blip, that minor increase happened now, we should see that it does not go a big one. Even if you cannot reduce it, which is unrealistic, these people are saying that we should not see that this increases. That is the argument. So very balanced. So you need to check the right answer now. So what is the argument about? So two answers are close. B and D are close, right? Crime rates will not increase after a 7-year period, and hence there is no point in trying to reduce crime. So this is again very extreme. E says as the crime rate becomes constant, the methods to combat is not the question. So A and E are out. After a certain point, crime rate will not decrease. The effort should be directed at not allowing it to rise again. This seems okay. The number of crimes committed remains constant after a certain period. So we are only talking about the rate of crimes, not the number of crimes. Okay, so C is not correct. Then D option is also crime rate might not fall below a certain level. This is similar to B, and hence the challenge would be to ensure that it does not raise above that level. Okay, so that means a little increase is okay. But after that, you should not allow it to increase. So D is more balanced, is it not? So than B, because B is saying not allowing it to rise again. Means even the minor increase it is ignoring, whereas D is considering it. There is a blip, there is an increase, but let us not allow it to increase beyond that level. So D option is precisely stating that over and above a certain level, you should not allow it to increase. So D option is the most accurate one or better one between B and D. Question number 13. Now these are logical completion questions. There is a blank given here. Okay, so you must give a proper ending for the argument. This is not main point question. This is a question which asks you to complete it. So whenever such blanks are given in the argument, make sure that you look at the word before it. Here there is a word since. Since means it is asking for a reason for something. So read the argument, give a reason for whatever is required there. Tonsillitis is a potentially life-threatening ailment. And so more often than not, patients with symptoms that strongly indicate tonsillitis have their tonsils removed. The appropriate surgery is low at risk, but is performed needlessly in about 18% cases. So unnecessarily this is performed, okay, on 18% cases. A newly developed scan for tonsillitis is highly accurate with just 2 misdiagnoses for every 98 correct ones. Okay, out of 100, only 2 are going wrong with this kind of a scanning. Clearly then, by using this test, doctors can by and large avoid unnecessary removals of the tonsils without however, performing any fewer necessary ones than before, since dash. So the scanning is effective in identifying the tonsillitis. Therefore, by using this test, you can avoid the unnecessary removals. Previously, he said needlessly 18% cases they were removing, right? Now this would not happen. Without, however, performing any fewer necessary ones than before. That means even without reducing the number of total operations happening, no such, largely avoid unnecessary removals. How? So the important point is the one here. The danger is if the tonsils must be removed and you do not remove it, that is a danger, is it not? So whether the test is actually, whether the operations are all are done, any fewer necessary ones than before, that means without reducing the number of operations. That is the major point here. So we have to reinforce this, that they are doing it correctly. So this test is a good one to avoid the unnecessary removals. Why? Give a reason for it. A is talking about other conditions, yeah. Sarth, sorry. Did anyone give the answer? Abhishek, did you give the answer? Sarth. Every patient who is diagnosed, D, someone gave D as the answer. Let me read that. A cannot be the answer because A is talking about other conditions. D says every patient who is diagnosed with this test as having tonsillitis has more than one of the symptoms generally associated with tonsillitis. See, it is okay, and I see it is identifying the correct people correctly. But what we should know is whether is it identifying the misdiagnosis. That means this test is also doing some mistakes, right? So two misdiagnoses. So are those misdiagnoses? Are those the misdiagnoses who require tonsillitis or who don't require tonsillitis? If they require tonsillitis and then this diagnosis is done wrongly, then the test is useless. Now we have to support the test saying that whoever is misdiagnosed are always the instances of attributing tonsillitis to someone who does not in fact have it. That means they don't have it, but the test shows that they have it. Then even if you avoid those for those people, the surgery for those people, it is not, it is not dangerous. What if those people require surgery and this test is misdiagnosing them? Then this test will not be effective as far as this condition is concerned. Because then they would have performed fewer necessary ones. So previously, if they are performing 100 surgeries, they are needlessly performing on 18 cases. Okay, so performing any fewer necessary ones than before. So if these are necessary ones and you avoid them, then this condition is not fulfilled, right? So B option is the correct one. So you are not misdiagnosing those people who have tonsillitis, but this test shows that they don't have it. Then it is dangerous. Then you are avoiding the necessary ones. But actually B option is saying that the misdiagnosis produced by this test are always instances of attributing tonsillitis to someone who does not have it. So that means somebody who doesn't have it is shown to be having it. So that's no danger. And you are not avoiding the necessary ones. Okay, so this is not necessary because he already doesn't have it. So there is no problem with this one. So B answer is giving a reason why this test can be performed, because the two misdiagnoses are always the cases of where that person doesn't have it, but it shows that he has it. Question number 14. It is widely believed that by the age of 80, perception and memory are significantly reduced from the levels at which they function at the age of 30. So it won't be as effective as they function at the age of 30, okay, when you are in 80. However, a recent study showed no difference in the abilities of 80-year-olds and 30-year-olds to play a card game devised to test perception and memory. Therefore, this is the conclusion. The belief that perception and memory are significantly reduced by the age of 80 is false. The reasoning above is most vulnerable to criticism on the ground. So you have to weaken it, that it fails to consider the possibility. So you have to focus on the evidence. What is the evidence? It is talking about the card game. Based on that, they are deriving the conclusion. So attack the evidence. Yes, Sarang, correct. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, Raghavan. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I was in the call. Yes, all of you are correct. So the criticism is that the card game doesn't require these skills. Therefore, anything that is based on it will not be correct. Okay. Very good. Question number 15. A study by economists has found that the children of homeowners stay in school longer than children of renters. So buying a home instead of renting one is a way for parents to improve the likelihood of their offspring staying longer in school. The above argument is flawed because, so why is the argument wrong? You must tell that. Or what is the flaw in the argument? C cannot be the answer because there is a proof for what they are saying. So C says as if this argument is assuming everything without proof. A is saying proceeds as though a condition that by itself is enough to guarantee a certain result must always be present for that result to be achieved. The condition is the condition is homeowners stay longer in school than the renters, right? So having a home, having a own house is the condition. But does he say always that result is obtained by doing this? What is the result? Staying longer in the school. Is it? Does it always happen if you own a house? Is it enough? No, but the argument is saying very clearly that it is one way for improving the for improving staying longer in school. So if it is one way, the argument is not believing that it is the only way. So the author is not trying to tell that it should always be present for the result to happen. So A is not correct. C is not correct. Now what is E saying? Fails to recognize that a tendency widely shared by a subgroup within a given population will not necessarily be widely shared by that population as a whole. This is talking about the subgroups only. It is not taking it to population, for entire population. So the result is also being given for the subgroups itself, is it not? So homeowners and renters. And the conclusion is also talking about homeowners and renters, not every population. So it is not subgroup versus population. It is subgroup versus subgroup only. So D is a correct answer because it says that based on the observation, the conclusion is saying as if it is a cause and effect. Just because I read a book and I also play cricket, I'm the best cricketer. Like Sachin Tendulkar drinks Vita, and he is the best cricketer. Now, that is association, right? So I can associate many things happening in my life. Or even Sachin Tendulkar may read some book, or Sachin Tendulkar may eat some thing or dine on a particular diet. That doesn't mean that his success is because of it. So association is different, causation is different. Okay. So just because you found some result associated with something, it need not be the cause of it. That is what the flaw in this argument is. They found that children of homeowners stay in school longer than children of renters. So you cannot jump to a conclusion that buying a home will improve longer stay in the school. So that is showing it as a cause. So association and causation, this kind of distinction you must check. So D is stating that concludes that one phenomenon is the cause of another, when at most what has been established is an association between them. So only association. There are two factors that are happening simultaneously. That does not mean that one is the cause of the other. Okay. So association versus causation. Remember this difference. Question number 16. Government does not exist as an independent entity defining policy. Instead, there exists a group of democratically elected pragmatists sensitive to the electorate who establish policies that will result in their own re-election. Therefore, if public policy is hostile to, say, environmental concerns, it is not because of governmental perversity, but because elected officials believe that. So you must complete this argument. So the second statement is the main point here. So these people, the policy makers or the people who are the leaders, pragmatists, they are very practical. They never, spoil the chances of re-election. They don't go against the public's wishes. Okay. They are very sensitive to the electorate. That's what the middle part is. So if a public policy is hostile to environmental concerns, it is not because of governmental perversity. That means there is nothing bad on the government part, but because elected officials believe that. What do they believe? That people are approving it, is it not? Or people don't disapprove it. So you must look for that. It's not going against the interests of the public. So that is the reasoning given in the argument. You have to follow that. The middle part is saying that people, they are sensitive to electorate. They don't do anything that goes against the wishes of the people. So if something is bad for the environment, what does it mean? That means people are not against it. Yes, Siddhi correct, Shantanu correct. Sarj, check your answer. Sarang correct. Majority of voters vote for certain politicians because of these politicians' idiosyncratic positions. Idiosyncratic means peculiar positions. Peculiar means different from normal, abnormal things. Now, do they vote them just because they are doing idiosyncratic things? Then you are accepting the perversity of the government, is it not? Because they are idiosyncratic. So D cannot be correct. Now the middle part reasoning is saying that, yes, Sarth, now it is correct. Now the middle part is saying that they are sensitive to electorate. That means they want to get re-elected. So that means they don't do anything against the public. So E option is correct because the majority of voters do not strongly wish for a different policy. And therefore they brought in this policy. There is no opposition to it. Question number 17. This is an easy one. Business schools have compulsory math remedial courses before the beginning of the curriculum for students from non-mathematics academic backgrounds like literature, psychology, and biology. Critics of these courses point to a recent study showing that during the course of the MBA program, despite completing the remedial courses, the performance of these students in areas that require a knowledge of mathematics is weaker than that of students from a mathematics background. They thus say that remedial courses for math should be done away with as they serve no purpose. We have to weaken this because which of the following studies presents a strongest counter argument to this? So what is that you have to prove? That remedial courses are good. Remedial courses are having some benefit. So prove that. Yes, very good. Aditya correct. Sarang correct. Yes, Shantanu correct. Very good. Siddhi correct. Abhishek, you have to check your answer. A study which shows that the performance of students in areas like HRM that do not require a mathematical aptitude is not dependent on this. So what is not require a mathematical aptitude? Why do you have to? So we are talking about importance of mathematics. We have to say that these remedial courses should be kept. This remedial course talks about mathematics. So it cannot be E because it talks about something that do not require a mathematical aptitude. There is nothing that says that the remedial course is good. Option B is stating it. A study that shows that after the remedial course, the performance of students from non-mathematics academic backgrounds in math-based tests was significantly better than in similar tests before the course. That means they have improved. They have improved from the beginning, what they began with. So obviously the remedial courses are helpful for the non-mathematics students. So this answer is proving that these remedial courses should not be done away with. They should be kept. So B answer is giving a counter argument. Okay. All right. That's all for tonight. Thank you and good night and happy new year to all of you in advance. Let us meet again in the next year. Thank you very much. Enjoy all of you. Bye-bye.